Good morning. Thank you for tuning in to Local News Live here on AOC Community Media. We do this every weekday at 9 a.m., reading local and state news from the Acadiana Advocate with the help from our wonderful volunteers, reading from their home studios right now. Bruce Cohen, thank you for joining us this morning. As usual, we're so grateful for you helping us with this program.
Oh, Mandy, it's always a pleasure. This has been a big part of both of our lives for almost 2 years now?
Yes.
Something like that. So, it's a great service, and I'm more than happy and very, very privileged and honored to be a part of it.
Thank you.
So, thank you so much. Give a round of applause to our tech this morning, Miss Mandy. Thank you so much. And I'll start reading the news here. Thank you so much, Mandy. Good morning, Acadiana. It is Tuesday, November 10th. This is Local News Live. So we'll start off with private gatherings blamed for rising virus cases. Numbers outpace test increase by Ben Myers. Coronavirus cases are rising in Lafayette Parish and the surrounding Acadiana region, far outpacing test increases. The increases follow 2 months of relatively steady numbers with slight and short-lived fluctuations in either direction. Lafayette Parish on Monday recorded its highest weekly caseload since August 20th. That corresponds with increases across the 7-parish Region 4, which is home to about 600,000 people. The current increases are comparable to those in early June that preceded a summer spike that resulted in hundreds of deaths and pushed local hospitals to their limits, according to Tina Stefanski, the state's regional health administrator. There has definitely been a noticeable change over the last couple of weeks, and we are headed in the wrong direction, Stefanski said. It's hard to say what's going to happen in a couple of weeks, but I do think it's a warning sign that if we don't course correct and more strictly follow these preventive practices, we are going to be back where we were this summer. Many new infections are originating at social gatherings among people between the ages of 5 and 29, Stefanski said. Evidence from contact tracing and elsewhere suggests that private settings, as opposed to school buildings, are where the virus is spreading most efficiently, Stefanski said. We understand people want to get together, but the flip side of that is those are really ripe for the virus to be spread because it's very hard to wear a mask in those private gatherings, Stefanski said. Lafayette Parish's 7-day caseload on Monday stood at 211, more than double the weekly total recorded on November 2nd. The 115% increase dwarfed the 25% increase in newly reported tests. The reason for our weekly caseload on Monday was 776, an increase of 94% since November 2nd, and the highest tally since August 19th. The increase in Region 4 cases over the past week is 3 times the increase in tests. Region 4 weekly cases as a percentage of tests have exceeded 5% in Region 4 for 3 days in a row, the first time that has happened since August 19th through the 21st. The downward trend following a Southwest Louisiana summer spike flatlined in early September, while the recent sharp increase appears to break the 2-month holding pattern. The Region 4 case numbers and test positivity rates are still far below the heights seen in July. 7-day caseloads in Region 4 at the end of July range from about 2,500 to 3,000, and new cases consistently represented 10 to 15% of test volumes. The Region 4 increases are occurring as the state, which thus far has avoided the full case explosions seen across the country, is seeing modest by consistent increases as well. Louisiana's rolling 7-day caseload has increased more than 30% for 3 straight days, the first time that has happened since mid-July. Louisiana hospitalizations for COVID-19 on Sunday stood at 652, the most recorded since September 16th. While that is a concerning increase, the current number of COVID-19 patients still pales in comparison to the summer and spring peaks when the state saw between 1,500 and 2,000 cases. Iconic Prejean's restaurant to be sold. Dino's Pizza owner to keep Cajun experience alive by Megan Wyatt. After 40 years of serving up Cajun country's cuisine and culture, the owner of Prejean's restaurant has decided to sell his business to another local restaurateur. Bob Gilbo, who opened Prejean's in April 1980 along Interstate 49 between Lafayette and Carencro, is in negotiations to sell the business to Tim Metcalf, the owner of Dino's Pizza locations. The spirit of Prejean's lives on, Gilbo said in a phone interview on Monday afternoon. Prejean's will continue to satisfy the culinary and cultural desires of locals and travelers alike. Metcalf announced Monday during the Moan Griffon show on KPEL 96.5 that his family would be purchasing the iconic Cajun restaurant at 3480 Northeast Evangeline Thruway. We've cut a deal, Metcalf said during the Fred segment. We're in the process of closing on it. It's going to be a huge challenge because of COVID and the live music and everything that makes Prejean's what it is, but I believe in the Cajun culture, and I believe I can turn it around. Gilbo and Metcalf expect to close on the business deal on November 18th. The coronavirus restrictions that went into effect in mid-March have had a devastating effect on Prejean's. While many restaurants were able to adapt by focusing on to-go service and outdoor seating, it wasn't as simple for Prejean's. Same reasons the restaurant is popular among tourists, live music, dancing, and expansive indoor seating have worked against it during the pandemic. Prejean's had 140 employees at the start of 2020. That number has since plummeted to just 50. If not for the sale, Prejean's may have shuttered permanently. We don't know, Gilbo said. How much longer can you keep going through this? I never quit. I never give up, but I tell you what, I'm surprised I was still able to stay open. Metcalf said in a phone interview Monday that he plans to keep Prejean's as a Cajun restaurant. He expects to close the restaurant for about 2 months for renovations and reopen ahead of the Lenten season of 2021. He said he plans to keep the exterior largely the same, but plans to completely revamp the interior. He also expects to parse down the restaurant's fast menu, but he said he'll approach the task with input from current employees and longtime customers. I'm taking a huge leap of faith, Metcalf said. I didn't do much due diligence. It's been fast and furious. Negotiations have been in the works for about 2 months between the restaurateurs who declined to disclose the sales price. Metcalf is purchasing Prejean's building, recipes, retail product line, and other assets, including the iconic alligator as part of the deal. A challenge is a challenge, Metcalf said. It's what I consider the most iconic Cajun restaurant in the world. For me to help to resurrect that or help keep that alive, it's not just about money. It's about giving back to the Acadian culture that's been so good to me. We need Prejean's in Lafayette. We have to keep the Cajun experience alive. Ben Berthelot, president and CEO of Lafayette Travel, said Prejean's is an important part of the region's tourism economy. It's one of the things that differentiates us from other places, Berthelot said. We say we have live Cajun and Zydeco music, but when you have people come to visit, we have to be able to deliver on that. This is a place that has live music 7 days a week. It's a great tool that we have. Gilbo was inspired to offer Prejean's after moving to California in the 1970s for an oil field job. When I got there, to my surprise, I discovered not only that I was Cajun, but that I was different than everybody else, Gilbo said. I didn't know that. I thought I was just like everybody else everywhere else. Instead, Gilbo said he realized he could cook better, party better, and lead better than most of the people he met while working out of state. He found himself returning home as much as possible because he missed the culture he left behind. When his grandfather offered him property, Gilbo immediately knew what kind of business he would open on the rural farmland. He named the restaurant for his grandfather, Walter Prejean. He loved it, Gilbo said. It was all amazing to him. To see something that he owned go from a sweet potato field to a Cajun restaurant was amazing for him. Cajun and Zydeco musicians played daily at Prejean's prior to the pandemic. A few of the restaurant's most notable groups would actually get their start at the restaurant. On April 15th, 1980, the night Prejean's opened, Gilbo said he asked Cajun musician Michael Doucet for the name of his band so he could put it on the marquee outside of the restaurant. Doucet's band would be known as Beausoleil after first appearing on the restaurant's sign, Gilbo said. Wayne Toops, one of the most successful Cajun musicians, got his start by performing on the slower nights at Préjean's. We were friends and hunting buddies, Gilbo said. I told him I'd get him in on Monday or Tuesday night. He honed his skills right here at Préjean's. At 72 years old, Gilbo said he's looking forward to spending more time fishing and traveling during his retirement. He plans to return to the restaurant he created from time to time, and said he's confident the food and atmosphere will still be great. The restaurant means a lot more to me as a cultural expression than it does to me as a business, Gilbo said. It's an expression of my family, my culture, and my values. Metcalf said he was not a regular Préjean's customer, but he occasionally brought visitors to the restaurant to experience the food, culture, and music of Acadiana. Metcalf said he's hoping Préjean's will be a favorite among locals as well as tourists. It makes me extremely proud to keep the most iconic Cajun restaurant in the world open to be able to move it forward into the next generation, Metcalf said. The history of Préjean's cannot be overstated. So many of our great musicians got started there. I want to give the next generation of Cajun artists a chance to become the next Michael Doucet or Wayne Toops or Chubby Carrier. It's a nice story. And I hope it definitely does stay in the tradition of Préjean's, because that is a unique restaurant here in our wonderful cultural hub of Acadiana. Looking at the crime blotter this morning, this is a culled from Advocate staff reports. 3 shot, 1 dead at Brobridge home. A Brobridge woman was killed early Monday after a triple shooting at a residence. Brobridge police said the victim is Roxanne Hathorn, 53. Police said she was pronounced dead at the scene. Police identified Nathan Simon, 31, as the shooter. Police said they responded to a call about the 3:30 a.m. shootings at a home in the 600 block of Belmer Circle. 3 people who lived at the address were shot, including a male 50 and a female 33. They were taken to a hospital. Simon turned himself in to authorities and was arrested on a number of warrants. Police said the investigation was continuing. Abbottville police are searching for a man wanted in connection with a shooting Saturday afternoon that left 1 person in critical condition. Police were called to the area of Northeast and Nukier Streets about 4:30 p.m. after witnesses heard shooting, according to a statement from the police department. According to police, 2 men had a shouting match in the road near the intersection, and as they were arguing, one of them, Dejan Miguel Chagua, pulled out a gun and fired it. The other man was hit in the abdomen, police said. The victim was transported to a hospital where he was listed in critical but stable condition, police said. Detectives obtained an arrest warrant for Chagua for counts of attempted first-degree murder and illegal use of weapons. Chagua is considered armed and extremely dangerous, police said. If anyone has any information regarding the whereabouts of Chagua, they are encouraged to contact the Abbottville Police Department at 337-893-2511. Passenger killed in an Evangeline crash. A Eunice man was killed Sunday when the northbound vehicle in which he was traveling left the roadway on LA 1161 near Bush Street in Evangeline Parish. State police said Kinsey Lopez, 21, was driving a 2002 Chevrolet Avalanche about 7 p.m. when her vehicle veered off the roadway on a curve. The vehicle overturned, and Lopez and her passenger, Eduardo Lopez, 26, were both ejected. Neither vehicle occupant was properly restrained. Kinsey Lopez was taken to a hospital with serious injuries, state police said. A coroner pronounced Eduardo Lopez dead at the scene. Authorities said charges were pending, and Troop 1 has investigated 51 fatal crashes resulting in 56 deaths in 2020. Okay, it's almost 1:15 the hour, so we're going to go to a couple of public service announcements before we head back into the news. Vitalant honors veterans, donate blood in honor of a veteran. This Veterans Day, Vitalant encourages the public to donate blood in honor of veterans who have served the country. Veterans were willing to give their blood to keep America safe, and one way to honor their service is by donating blood. Donors who visit the Lafayette Donation Center at 1503 Bertrand Drive through Wednesday, November 11th, will be provided a card on which to write the name of a loved one who is a veteran. These names will be on display within the center through Veterans Day. We encourage donors to make an appointment by visiting vitalent.org or by calling 877-25-VITAL. And Vitalent is spelled VITALANT. Blood and platelet donations often drop during the holiday months as fewer donors are available because of seasonal activities and illnesses. But this year, the outlook is particularly worrisome, with many schools transitioned to virtual learning and businesses and work-from-home situations. About 1,600 Vitalent blood drives have already been canceled for November and December. Currently, there's an urgent need for O-negative blood, the universal blood type that all patients can receive. O-negative donors can maximize their impact by giving a power red donations. Requests for mosquito control now available through Lafayette 311 or through 111, Mosquito Prevention and Safety. Lafayette Consolidated Government, LCG, is increasing mosquito abatement efforts in the parish. An increase in mosquito activity is a common occurrence following a storm event, and we definitely have had a few storm events that have made landfall in the Gulf this year. Citizens noticing an influx of mosquitoes in the area can now use the Lafayette 311 portal to request service. All submitted requests are routed directly to Mosquito Control Services, the mosquito control contractor for the parish. We'll head back into the news. FEMA, don't pay company demanding money for blue roof tarps, Associated Press out of Lake Charles. The FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, is letting homeowners know that its Operation Blue Roof is free, and they should let authorities know if any company tries to make them pay. The program installs tarps on damaged roofs to waterproof them until repairs can be made after a hurricane. The Blue Roof program is free. A subcontractor cannot demand payment or file a lien against the property of a survivor who received the blue tarp, said a news release sent Monday. Homeowners in southwest Louisiana have reported that a Lake Charles area subcontractor has sent a letter threatening to put a lien on their homes if they don't pay for having tarps put on their roof under the FEMA program after Hurricanes Laura and Delta. Agency spokesman Manuel Broussard said Monday. He said the Army Corps of Engineers in Memphis, Tennessee, which is running the program for FEMA in southwest Louisiana, has sent the company a letter ordering it to stop. Any homeowner who gets a letter requesting a payment for the FEMA Blue Roof program can forward it to ROE, that's ROE-call center at usace.army.mil, a FEMA news release said. The program is for homes for what's less than 50% structural damages. Homeowners in Allen, Beauregard, Vernon, Jefferson Davis, Calcasieu, and Cameron parishes had to sign up by October 24th. As of Wednesday, 7,778 roofs had tarps installed because of damage from Hurricane Laura and 5,199 after Hurricane Delta. FEMA spokeswoman Melissa Wilkins says she didn't know how many of the tarps installed after Hurricane Delta replaced ones installed after the earlier storm. Cantrell Blast event organizers, Lafayette and Lauren Daigle among French Quarter performers, story by Brian Stoll and Kayla Gagnet. A furious Mayor LaToya Cantrell blasted organizers of a sizable unpermitted Christian gathering and musical performance in the French Quarter on Saturday afternoon and said the city was weighing penalties against those involved. During a news conference Monday to announce that the city will move this week to a more relaxed set of coronavirus restrictions, Cantrell said Saturday's event, similar to others that Christian rocker and activist Sean Faucht has hosted across the country, was not permitted, not authorized, not coordinated at all by the city of New Orleans. The densely packed crowd of about 400 people who turned out to the event across from Jackson Square featured a few masks and little social distancing. something that City Hall said amounted to clear violations of public health guidelines. A spokesperson for Cantrell said the city is reviewing footage of the gathering to weigh potential fines or other penalties against organizers or participants for violating the rules, which include social distancing and face mask requirements. While this was under the guise of a religious activity or event, we know it put our people in danger, Cantrell said Monday. Cantrell says she first learned of the event by an email tip from a resident. She said her administration believed the organizers would not hold the event after being told it was not allowed under city guidelines, but planning went, quote, underground, unquote, and the event went on. Cantrell says she instructed city agencies to pursue every angle possible to hold those individuals accountable. The event featured performances by Fouch and other musicians, including Grammy-winning Lafayette native Lauren Daigle, as well as prayers and religious messages. Footage of the concert posted online by Fouch raised heckles among the many New Orleans locals who alleged a double standard from the city in enforcing coronavirus regulations and decried the apparent leeway offered Fouch, while local musicians have faced extremely tight restrictions on their own ability to perform. But some of those involved in the event shot back, calling the gathering a demonstration over the right for Christians to worship against coronavirus restrictions that have placed limits on the size of in-person gatherings for public health reasons. Pastor Andy Rebirth Pellerino of One Accord Ministries in Abbottville, who spoke at the gathering, said, "Really, this is about the individual's right to worship." Pellerino said Monday that the gathering was an act of worship, not like Cantrell contended, an effort simply to hold concerts in defiance of city rules. Pellerino claimed that the gathering didn't put anyone in danger because no one was forced to attend, although public health officials' prime concern about such gatherings is the possibility that attendees could become infected and then pass the virus further on. Pellerino likened the event to large Black Lives Matter protests in June in response to the death of George Floyd at the hands of a Minneapolis police officer, noting that an even larger crowd of demonstrators denouncing police brutality had gathered at Jackson Square. That happened at that same spot, and there was no uproar behind it, said Pellerino. We gathered peacefully. Current New Orleans rules make masks mandatory in public spaces. The rules allow street performers and buskers, but require all performers to wear face masks unless singing, and call on performers to keep crowds small, masked, and socially distanced. Outdoor venues can likewise host events, but face limits on crowd sizes and requirements that attendees remain distanced and masked. Outdoor concerts are likewise limited and require a special permit from the city. In an unrelated announcement on Monday, Cantrell said those rules would be relaxed slightly starting Wednesday as New Orleans moves into what Cantrell termed Phase 3.3 of coronavirus restrictions. New Orleans Police Department, which referred to the event on Saturday as a community demonstration, closed Decatur Street off to traffic. The agency hasn't responded to questions about its handling of the event, but Cantrell said the city was taken off guard when Fouch and others went ahead with the event in Washington Artillery Park after being told by officials that it wouldn't be allowed. By the time police arrived, Cantrell said the crowd was already too large for a New Orleans Police Department to disperse, so the mayor said police follow protocols for handling protests and demonstrations. Those generally call for officers to redirect traffic and not directly confront large crowds to avoid escalations. That was the approach the New Orleans Police Department mostly followed during large racial justice protests in June, including a demonstration in the same spot as Saturday's event. The police did at times forcibly confront protesters, including by firing tear gas projectiles and marchers attempting to cross the Crescent City Connection Bridge. Fouch hasn't responded to messages from this newspaper seeking comment on the event and the mayor's reaction. Daigle, who hasn't commented and posted publicly about her participation, also didn't offer a response to requests for comment. Okay, our next story is more somewhat locally related. let's see if we have time for that. Let me just check here real quick, folks. Okay, I'm going to, I'll read the story and then we'll move on. I'll read the story and then we'll move on to the day in history and the zodiac horoscope and the funerals in the Kenyan area today. Church arsonist sentenced in state court, 25 years to run concurrent to federal sentence by Megan Wyatt. Members of historically Black Baptist churches in St. Landry Parish expressed disappointment Monday morning upon learning Holden Matthews, the 23-year-old confessed arsonist who set fire to the churches in 2019, would serve no additional prison time for state charges because of a federal plea deal. David Sylvester, a member of the St. Mary Baptist Church in Port Barre, told a state judge it was impossible for him to fully comprehend the loss, and he and others have experienced. Sylvester compared it to counseling someone who has lost their mother without having also lost a parent. You can imagine, but you can't feel it, Sylvester said during a victim statement prior to the sentencing. You can only imagine. Judge James B. Doherty of the 27th Judicial District Court sentenced Matthews on Monday to 25 years in prison on 3 state hate crime counts, 2 counts of simple arson of a religious building and a count of aggravated arson of a religious building. The sentence will run concurrently with a federal prison sentence of 25 years for 3 counts of intentional damage to religious property and a count of using fire to commit a felony. Intentional damage to religious property is considered a federal hate crime under the 1996 Church Arson Prevention Act. Matthews pleaded guilty to the 6 charges in February. Florence Milburn, a third-generation member of Greater Union Baptist Church in Opelousas, said it was painful but relieving to tell the court it was like losing her church. She told the judge she received a call at about 2 a.m. on April 2nd, 2019, and rushed over in the hopes of fighting the fire. She quickly realized it would be impossible to save the structure. I could smell the scent of burned embers a mile away, Milburn said ahead of the sentencing. I cried and I screamed, but the arsonist couldn't hear me. Milburn had buried her parents at the church's cemetery just a few months before the fire. She compared the loss of her church to that of a third family member. The judge explained to the victims Monday morning that he could not hand out a different sentence than one Matthews had received 1 week prior because of a plea deal between federal prosecutors and Matthews. It's a significant sentence, Doherty said. If I felt there was not a sentence that addresses the issue and the problem, I could have disapproved. Federal Judge Robert Summerhays on November 2nd acknowledged Matthews' 18 months of incarceration since his April 2019 arrest and credited that time towards the sentence. In total, he served 23.5 years. The judge additionally ruled that Matthews must pay $2.66 million in restitution to the 3 churches and associated insurance companies. He'll also be required to participate in mental health and substance abuse treatment upon release, register as an arsonist, refrain from possession of drugs, and avoid criminal activity. He'll be under 3 years of supervised release once free. Matthews, the son of a St. Landry Parish Sheriff's deputy, burned down 3 historically Black Baptist churches in Opelousas and Port Barre in a 10-day span from late March through early April 2019. The churches, St. Mary Baptist Church, Greater Union Baptist Church, and Mount Pleasant Baptist Church, each had over 100 years of history. 3 people who spoke on behalf of the affected churches Monday expressed disappointment when they learned Matthew's state sentence would be the same as the federal sentence. It's kind of sad when something happens in your parish, but the legal system keeps it hidden, Sylvester said after the hearing. Why were we here? It was already done. Doherty told church members during Monday's sentencing that the plea deal was not a secret and was publicly available in court records. Still, church members like Selena Guidry Richard of Greater Union Baptist Church left the courtroom feeling defeated. I'm glad he's going to be going away for the crime he did, but I feel like more could have been done. More could have been done. Much more could have been done, Richard said after Monday's sentencing. I don't know the law like they do, but I feel the punishment did not match the crime. Matthews and his attorney, Dustin Talbot, did not address the court during the state sentencing Monday. During the federal sentencing, Talbot told the 23-year-old repentant and turned his life back to God during his time in jail. There are not enough words in the English language to say how sorry I am. If I could go back and change it, I would, Matthew said in a prepared statement. I not only have hurt my real family and friends, but I have hurt my brothers and sisters in Christ. Matthew's statement did not inspire an emotional moment of reconciliation between the parties. Some victims said after the November 2nd hearing, they were skeptical about Matthew's rekindled faith after prosecutor John Luke Walker detailed 3 recent phone calls Matthews made from his jail to his parents. In the calls, Walker said Matthews joked about his situation, failing to appreciate the gravity of the moment, and was disrespectful toward the pastors and congregants of the victimized churches. Phone calls were not played in open court. Talbot challenged Walker's summation of the calls and said they were a raw look at Matthews processing his reality with his family in real time and didn't fully capture his demeanor or take into account his compliance throughout the legal process. The 3 congregations continued to recover emotionally and physically from the fires. All 3 are still in the early phases of rebuilding and are trying to maintain membership and community connections while worshiping in borrowed spaces. While they preach messages of love and forgiveness, the congregants have all said the devastation of the fires will never leave them. Investigators recovered the scepter, gasoline can, shop rags, and lighter Matthews used to light each fire, which purchased records show he bought in a local Walmart hours before the first fire in St. Mary on March 26. Video surveillance footage, eyewitness accounts, and cell phone GPS records placed Matthews at the scene of each fire. Further, investigators discovered photos and videos Matthews took during the fires and days later when he returned to the churches to view the damage. He superimposed images of himself over the photos and used them as mock-ups for album art for his black metal band, Pagan Carnage. Matthews confessed the fires were an attempt to gain credibility and renown among fans of the Scandinavian subgenre, a musical style associated with church burnings in Norway in the 1990s. Officials noted Matthews took inspiration from notorious black metal bassist Varg Vikernes of the band Mayhem, who was accused of killing one of his bandmates and setting a string of church fires. Matthews watched Lords of Chaos, a semi-fictionalized biopic about Mayhem in the months preceding the fires. Mary Lou Kelly, a clinical psychologist and LSU professor, testified in her estimation Matthews struggled with anxiety, depression, and arrested social development. After years of family encouragement to pray for improvement with no relief, Kelly said he gloomed onto black metal as a repudiation of his family's beliefs and a way to shed his social struggles. Okay, we're going to go into our day in history. It's a little bit past a half-hour break in the broadcast this morning. So today is Tuesday, November 10th, the 315th day of 2020. There are potentially 51 shopping days left in the year. Today's highlight in history. On November 10th, 1775, the U.S. Marines were organized under authority of the Continental Congress. On this date in 1766, Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, had its beginnings as William Franklin, the royal governor of New Jersey, signed a charter establishing Queens College in New Brunswick. 1938, Kate Smith first sang Irving Berlin's God Bless America on her CBS radio program. In 1944, during World War II, the ammunition ship USS Mount Todd, or A-11, exploded while moored at the Manas Naval Base in the Admiral Islands in the South Pacific, leaving 45 confirmed dead and 327 missing and presumed dead. 1951, customer dial long-distance telephone service began as Mayor M. Leslie Denning of Englewood, New Jersey, called Alameda, California Mayor Frank Osborne without operator assistance. In 1975, the UN General Assembly approved a resolution equating Zionism with racism. The world's body repealed the resolution in December of 1991. And also in 1975, the one hauling ship SS Edmund Fitzgerald mysteriously sank during a storm in Lake Superior with the loss of all 29 crew members. And you can hear all about it in Gordon Lightfoot's The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Great song. 1997, a judge in Cambridge, Massachusetts, reduced Lewis Woodward's murder conviction to involuntary manslaughter and sentenced the English au pair to the 279 days she had already served in the death of 8-month-old Matthew Apin. In 2009, John Allen Muhammad, mastermind of the 2002 sniper attacks that killed 10 in the Washington, D.C. region, was executed. In 2017, facing allegations of sexual misconduct, comedian Louis C.K. said the harassment claims by 5 women that were detailed in the New York Times report are true, and he expressed remorse for using his influence irresponsibly. In 2018, authorities in Northern California said 14 additional bodies had been found in the ruins from a fire that virtually destroyed the town of Paradise. 10 years ago, President Barack Obama cut short his visit to his boyhood home in Indonesia because of an ash cloud from Mount Merapi and flew to South Korea for an economic summit. 5 years ago, legendary New Orleans musician and composer Alec Toussaint, 77, died in Madrid. 1 year ago, Bolivian President Evo Morales resigned after mounting pressure from the country's military and public after his re-election victory. It triggered weeks of fraud allegations and deadly protests. Today's birthday, fantastic blues singer Bobby Rush is 86-year-old today. Country singer Donna Fargo is 79. Lyricist Tim Rice is 76. Actor, dancer Anne Rinkin is 71. Actor John Scalia is 70. Movie director Roland Emmerich is 65. Actor Matt Craven is 64. Actor comedian Sinbad is also 64 today. Actor Mackenzie Phillips is 61. Author Neil Gaiman is 60. Actor Hugh Bonneville is 57. Actor comedian Tommy Davidson, 57 as well. Actor Michael J. White is 56. Country singer Chris Cagle is 52. Actor comedian Tracy Morgan is 52. Actor Alan Pompeo is 51. Rapper Yugon is 50. Rapper producer Ron G is 50. Actor Walton Goggins is 49. Comedian and actor Chris Lilly is 46. Rock singer, musician, and Jim Atkins from Jimmy Eat World is 45. Country singer Miranda Lambert is 37 years old today. And actor Josh Peck is 34. Okay, let's move on into our zodiac or horoscope. If you're a Scorpio, don't sit back when you need to take action. Harness your energy and get moving. Don't count on others when it's up to you to affect change. Sagittarius, an emotional situation will surface if you let someone meddle or interfere with your plans. Personal improvements will boost your morale. Don't rely on someone's promises. Capricorn, you'll face opposition if you pressure others to do things your way. Go about your business and finish when you start. An unusual offer will entice you. Aquarius, resolve money matters. How you delegate responsibilities will determine if you can move forward peacefully. Don't get involved in matters that don't concern you. Pisces, share your ideas and look for equality in every personal and professional interaction you encounter. An unexpected change will work in your favor. Aries, you may crave change, but before you make a move, consider your motives and your options. Patience will be required if you intend to reach your goal. Settling for less will lead to dissatisfaction. Taurus, take the plunge, stand up for your rights, go after your goals, and engage in conversations that address sensitive issues. A partnership will encourage personal growth and professional gains. Gemini, do something that requires energy, agility, and a competitive mindset. A physical challenge will bring out the best in you. Aggressive action will deter anyone from taking you for granted. Cancer, moderation is favored. Speak up if you don't like what someone is doing. You may not relish making a change, but consider the alternative and do what's necessary to improve your situation. Leos, take care of matters that require physical exertion, and change will encourage you to strive for a better future. Distance yourself from a movement that doesn't share your point of view. Virgo, as I always state to my birth sign, your emotions will push you in a positive direction. An unusual partnership will encourage you to try something new and incorporate what you learn into your everyday routine. An unusual partnership. Well, sounds enticing. And finally, Libras, don't expect you to get along or agree with the people you encounter today. Consider your options and put your energy into something and bring you closer to your goal. And as always, the horoscope is an entertainment feature not based on scientific fact. The Acadiana area today, funerals in the Acadiana area. Antoine of Champagne, David Funeral Home Chapel, 1101 Trotter Street in New Iberia, 10 a.m. It could be David, not sure. Benny McKinney, Hope Presbyterian Church in Opelousas at 1 p.m. Hazel Plumbar, St. Charles Borromeo Roman Catholic Church at 11 a.m. Barbara Roy, Sunrise Chapel at Walter's Funeral Home at 1 p.m. Brian Scambow, St. Joseph Catholic Church in Milton at noon, and Merlin and Fallin, Alonson Funeral Home in Opelousas at 11 a.m. All right, getting back into the news. Let's read this one story that I saw in the living section this morning, because I do get the print edition of the Acadiana Advocate. And my wife and I have a backyard is certified as a National Historical Audubon birding site, which means we have set up bird feeders and water and everything for a natural environment for birds to come to. And we see hummingbirds when they come through here. So this is an article about a rare sighting of a hummingbird in Baton Rouge. What a beauty. Rare, once in a year, hummingbird spotted in Baton Rouge backyard by Colette Teen. In early November, Gail Suberbiel thought it was time to take down the hummingbird feeder in her Baton Rouge backyard. Then she spied a hummingbird buzzing nearby, so she refilled it and left it up. Not long after, she saw a flash of blue at the feeder, rushing to run for her camera. That bird was nothing like those that usually swooped in for a sip of the sweet nectar. Suberbiel tried to identify the bird using her photos and online apps, but failed. Her excitement really began after she posted her photos on some birding websites. I knew he was special, but I didn't realize the scope of how big a deal he was, she said. What she spied, a broad-billed hummingbird, is a rare find in Louisiana and considered a winter hummingbird. With its long, bright, reddish bill, the tiny flyer is like a once-in-a-year find, said Jane Patterson, president of the Baton Rouge Audubon Society. Winter hummingbirds, she said, don't belong in South Louisiana. They are generally western species of hummingbirds that, for unknown reasons, choose to spend the winter along the Gulf Coast rather than departing for their standard wintering grounds in Mexico and Central America, she said. Species such as Rufus, Annas, Allens, buff-bellied, calliope, black-chinned, broad-tailed, and broad-billed hummingbirds have all been found within Louisiana's borders in the off-season. Patterson said that even though they are classified as winter birds, some of them arrive as early as August. The birds would generally pick a winter territory, stay through February or March, and then take off across the continent. Birders and bird banders in Louisiana have been tracking these little birds for several years. Eric Johnson, Director of Bird Conservation for Audubon, Louisiana, arranged a visit to Suberbiel's yard to safely trap the tiny bird and attach a band on its leg for research. Many questions can be answered if the bird is eventually recaptured, including routes of migration, said Johnson, whose special interest is hummingbird molting, the loss of old feathers and growth of new ones that occurs in mid to late summer before the hummingbirds migrate south. Johnson carefully handled the small creature, measuring its body fat content, weight, wingspan, and bill. The hummingbird was still in the molting process, Johnson said, so it's possible it could remain in Baton Rouge a few more weeks or even months until it flies south to Mexico. New Orleans resident Nancy Newfield was one of the first to identify Louisiana winter hummingbirds in the early 1970s. And it's her research that has proved that 7 different species of hummingbirds spend the winter here. Her research also showed that some other winter hummingbirds revisit sites over subsequent years. Nancy's work established a baseline of what we know is here, Johnson said. He, along with other researchers, have continued to gather information on winter hummingbirds. The project compiles all observations of wintering hummingbirds in Louisiana through the app iNaturalist, and Johnson encouraged residents to participate. So if you see a hummingbird at your feeder from November through February, email Eric, that's erik.johnson@audubon.org. The following information: your name, address, town only is acceptable, the first observed date of the hummingbird if possible, species if known, sex male, female, or unknown, whether the bird is banded, and if possible see, when and by whom, and any photos. To attract winter hummingbirds or any birds to your yard paths and suggested offering a water source, bird baths, misters, and providing food with bird feeders. Hummingbirds need leaf cover, so it may help if you have evergreens like camellias, sweet olive, hollies, and ligustrum in your landscaping. Hang a few feeders, but also provide winter flowers such as shrimp plant, cupia, rosaria, forest spike, and other plants. Leaving hummingbird feeders out will not interfere with migration. If you leave your feeder out for winter, continue to change the nectar regularly to make sure it stays fresh and won't go rancid, she said. Sue Biel hopes her rare visitor will remain for at least a little while. It's been really fun to have him here. I'll miss him when he leaves, she said. And you can, there is an Audubon, Louisiana Society in Baton Rouge, and there's also the Louisiana Master Naturalist, a great at Baton Rouge. But here in Lafayette, we also have a Master Naturalist, and I believe we have a chapter of the Louisiana Audubon Society here in Lafayette as well. Okay, so getting back into our news cycle, could Louisiana keep voting changes by Sam Carlin? For the past decade or so, Louisiana voters have increasingly skipped the Election Day fanfare and instead cast their ballots in the week-long early voting period or by mail. In 2020, that trend collided with a pandemic and a court order to make it easier for people to vote early and by mail. As a result, the state shattered early and mail voting records and saw voter turnout spike. Now, some officials are considering whether the state should make it permanently easier to vote before Election Day after the pandemic introduced hundreds of thousands of new voters to early and mail voting. I do think we need to have that discussion, said Governor John Bel Edwards, a Democrat. So long as we can have elections that we have confidence in, we ought to extend every reasonable convenience to the voters because we want to promote people voting. Louisiana state laws calls for a 1 week early voting period to start 14 days before the election. That's a shorter period than voters across the U.S. experience on average, according to the National Conference of State Legislatures. While early voting periods range from 4 to 45 days, the average length is 19 days. To change Louisiana's law, the Republican-led legislature and Democratic governor would have to agree. Republican Secretary of State Kyle Ardoin introduced emergency rules for the summer elections that expanded early voting from a week to 14 days and allowed a list of reasons people can get an absentee mail ballot because of the coronavirus pandemic. Ardoin said Monday it's too early to say what permanent changes might be called for after this election. He said he'll meet with local election officials in the coming weeks to gather input, and he said he will take into consideration local governments, including Cato and West Baton Rouge parishes, who have called for more early voting sites. Louisiana also had a partisan split between early ballots and election day voting. According to Baton Rouge pollster John Couvion, Trump's lead was 53% to 46% in Louisiana's early and mail priority compared to 63% to 35% on election day. Voting rights groups have long pushed for early pathways to voting in Louisiana, including automatic voter registration, expanded early voting, and recently universal mail voting, the latter of which the Republican majority in the legislature has pushed back against. Landry joins fight for Trump over Pennsylvania vote by Mark Ballard, Capitol Bureau editor. Republican Attorney General Association, chaired by Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry on Monday, asked the U.S. Supreme Court to hear a legal challenge of a ruling by Pennsylvania's High Court that allowed the counting of presidential mail ballots postmarked by Election Day, but not arriving until November 6th. Landry said Pennsylvania's 253-member Republican Majority General Assembly has the authority to determine election procedures, and legislators decided that mail ballots needed to be in hand at 8 p.m. November 3rd. But the 7-member Democratic majority Pennsylvania Supreme Court, citing problems with the U.S. Postal Service, unconstitutionally changed the legislative prerogative by allowing ballots to arrive late as long as they were mailed by Election Day, he said. In this particular case, we believe that referees changed the rules of the game, Landry said in a news conference, announcing that 9 GOP attorney generals would join Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmidt in filing the amicus brief with the U.S. Supreme Court, Republican Party of Pennsylvania versus Boatvar. The High Court needs to decide the balance of powers, he issued. Though the brief cites some cases of fraud in the past, it did not allege widespread fraud during the election in Pennsylvania or elsewhere. Pennsylvania's High Court decision opened the door to possible fraud, the GOP attorneys general alleged. And the Trump campaign has filed several lawsuits in Pennsylvania, including an effort to stop Philadelphia election officials from counting ballots. The federal judge dismissed the request. The Republican National Committee in Trump's campaign also tried to stop the counting of 600 ballots in the Philadelphia suburb of Montgomery County, which overwhelmingly backed Biden on claims these mail ballots had failed to meet requirements by not being placed in a secrecy envelope. Okay, well, let's turn to our sports stories. We have a few minutes here left on the broadcast this morning. Number 25, Cajuns can secure a spot in Sun Belt title game with win by Kevin Foote. That's number 25, ranked nationally in the country, folks. Our own Raging Cajuns are ranked nationally, number 25. Two major goals for the 2020 season could be colliding for the UL Raging Cajuns at 1 p.m. Saturday when Coach Billy Napier's team takes on South Alabama at Cajun Field. First, there's the much-discussed ongoing search to finally play the complete game. More importantly, a win Saturday would earn the number 25th ranked Cajuns a third straight trip to the Sun Belt Conference Championship game, scheduled to be played on the home field of the number 1 overall seed on December 19th. The Cajuns are 6-1 overall and 4-1 in Sun Belt play. Coming to town is the Jaguars team that's 3-4 and 2-2, so a UL win would essentially give the Cajuns a 2.5 game lead with only 2 games left, with a tiebreaker over South Alabama. We turned the page, Napier said, of the Cajuns' 27-20 homecoming win over Arkansas State this past Saturday. We did it pretty quickly here. It's that time of the year, and it's crunch time, and this is going to be a big one against South Alabama. Since UL's latest win, the Cajuns earned a return trip to the AP Top 25 poll at number 25. Running back Chris Smith said that's not the priority for the Cajuns. We're really over it, he said, of the novelty of being ranked. We said we played better without being ranked. So when you ranked, it's just a target on our name. We're already saying it's hunting season, so we're out to get everybody. But now everybody's out to get us because we're ranked again. We just really put that past us, and we're just playing like we've still got something to prove. We still don't have a Sun Belt championship here, and that's what we're trying to get. To capture that Sun Belt crown, first occasions have to qualify. In order to do so, it may eventually require better execution in the first half. UL has only led at the half in 1 game this season, trailed in 4 and were tied in the other 2, including being down 6-0 to the Red Wolves this past Saturday. We want to stop doing that, Napier said. I told the offense yesterday, hey, how about we have 2 340-pound halves at some point this year? We're still getting there. Smith said all the close calls this season definitely aren't by design. I'm not really so sure we're enjoying it, he said. We know we can play better ball, so those close calls. We've got to pick up our game in the first half. We've got to execute better, and we'll be on top of our game. It's now 9:55 by my clock, which means our broadcast on the local TV stations will be interrupted, and we'll go back to their usual broadcasting schedule. But you can still listen to this morning's broadcast on our online streaming station, which is Cypress Street Radio. That's CYPRESS Street Radio. Go to that page, click on the play button, or you can go to our YouTube station, which is AOC Community Media, to listen to the rest of the broadcast. So to continue with the occasion's sports story, we produced over 300 yards in the second half. If we do that in the first half, there's no way any team can keep up with us. While Smith said a lack of execution by the players is the reason for the first half woes, succeeding in the second half each week isn't a secret either. It started way back in the summer, Smith said. Didn't really get to do much, but we knew conditioning-wise we had to push ourselves, and Coach Napier is going to push us to be our best. So we had an overtime period, and we're going hard. We're getting everybody right, everybody in condition, so when it gets to game time, other teams aren't physically and mentally prepared as we are. We've got to give props to the coaches and to our strength and conditioning staff. And truthfully, Napier doesn't have many easy memories from his first two battles with South Alabama. Jaguars rushed for 351 yards last week and outgained the Cajuns overall 467 to 391, only for UL to prevail 37 to 27. 2 years ago, the Jags gave UL plenty of headaches before the Cajuns won 48 to 38. There have been a handful the first 2 years we've been here, and certainly I don't see this Saturday being any different, Napier said. I don't care what the record is. When we get together to play these games, they're a tough matchup. This is going to be a big one. They're certainly still in contention on the Western Division side. The Jaguars limited a league-leading Coastal Carolina to its lowest point total of the season in a 23-6 loss to the Chanticleers. Regardless of what's happened in the past, we're sitting here where we want to be, Napier said. We're 6-1. We've got an opportunity to win the West and get in a position to get in the championship game. But we're going to need to be at our best against a really good and talented South Alabama team this week. Let's see. For LSU, it appears LSU, already operating well below the 85 scholarship limit, is flirting with the 53 scholarship player minimum required by SEC rules to play Saturday. That's because of players with COVID-19 or in quarantine after their close contact with infected teammates. From what we're hearing, it is likely that the game will be postponed or canceled. A decision could come as early as Tuesday, but the SEC has no firm deadline for deciding when a game is called off. Monday was clear Auburn and Mississippi State could not play this weekend, and that game was postponed. Whether LSU and Alabama follow suit is still the subject of speculation, but perhaps not for much longer. If they don't play Saturday, when could LSU and Alabama play? When it reconfigured the 10-game pandemic schedule, the SEC wisely inserted a December 12th open date between the end of the regular season on December 5th and the SEC championship game on December 19th. The problem for LSU is its game against Florida already got moved to December 12th because of the coronavirus outbreak at Florida. So for LSU and Alabama to play, both teams would have to shift games around, with LSU possibly even playing a fellow team out of the SEC title hunt, say Arkansas or Ole Miss, on December 19th. Theoretically, it could be done like this: move the LSU-Alabama game to November 21st, move the LSU-Arkansas game from November 21st to December 19th, and move the Alabama-Kentucky game from November 21st to December 12th. Whether the SEC rearranges all of those dominoes is anyone's guess, but the integrity of the 10-game schedule is vitally important to the league. We've had schedule adjustments, SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey said Monday on SEC Network. We will likely have them again. We won't change opponents, but we may change dates and sites. We have to react. Okay, well, that about wraps up everything for this morning. It's now 10 a.m. Every Monday through Friday, Local News Live is brought to you live by a volunteer newspaper reader with the Acadian Advocate being our collaborator. I, myself, and others read the news from the Advocate. It's been from our home studios in the last 8 months. Because of the coronavirus, we can't go into our usual podcast booth at the AOC studios. We welcome you to join us every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. for all the local news and state news and sports. We appreciate you tuning in. This is Bruce Cohen, will always be Bruce Cohen. And as I always say, be safe, be healthy, and be smart, folks. Please continue. Now, I've read that story about some increases in spikes in the pandemic here in the state of Louisiana. Please be careful. Just be smart. Be smart, folks. Wear your mask and do everything we need to do. Stop the spread. I say it every time I, do the broadcast. Just be smart. Be real smart. We don't want you getting sick. We want you to stay healthy. We want your family to stay healthy, because if you catch it, more than likely you'll pass it on to somebody else. So please be careful. Just wear the mask, take precautions. And I also say every morning, be kind to each other. Have a great day. We'll see you on the